Exercise 23 is the anatomy of the respiratory system. Your objective will be to learn the anatomy of the respiratory system. You will accomplish this by looking at the gross anatomy on models that you'll encounter in lab. You will use pictures from your lab manual and your textbook, and you will also be looking at some microscopic structures of the lungs and the trachea under the microscope. The function of the respiratory system is to provide oxygen to the tissues of the body and also provide a means of removal of carbon dioxide, which is a waste product constantly produced by the tissues of the body. As blood flows through the lungs, the respiratory system loads that blood with oxygen and unloads carbon dioxide from that blood. It is the function of the cardiovascular system to transport the oxygenated blood, that is, blood that is high in oxygen, low in carbon dioxide, to the body tissues, and also for the cardiovascular system to bring deoxygenated blood back to the lungs. Deoxygenated blood is blood that is high in carbon dioxide and relatively low in oxygen. This figure from your book shows the major structures of the respiratory system. Here you see the lungs, and you can basically think of the respiratory system as the lungs and a tube or passageway that allows air to get to and from the lungs from the outside world. So when you breathe, air enters the nasal cavity through openings in the nose called nostrils or nares, moves through the nasal cavity into the pharynx or throat. From the pharynx, it enters the larynx, which is the opening to the trachea or windpipe. The larynx is also where your voice box is located. From the trachea, air enters the primary bronchi, which extend into the lungs. The respiratory system is separated into an upper and lower respiratory tract. Basically, everything superior to the trachea, which includes the larynx, the pharynx, and the nasal cavity, is the upper respiratory tract. And everything below the larynx, that would be the trachea, the bronchi, and any structures in the lungs, is considered the lower respiratory tract. So if you have an upper respiratory tract infection, basically you have a head cold. Our approach to studying the anatomy of the respiratory system will be to follow the pathway of air as it is inhaled. We'll start at the nasal cavity, then move to the pharynx, into the larynx, from the larynx into the trachea, then to the primary bronchi, and finally into the lungs.